Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, president-elect of criticalblast.com, and we are here for one more night of spelunking into the world of crowdfunding comics. Now, last night was kind of weird because we had a little bit of Christmas and then a little bit of alien conspiracy. So that kind of put my head in a weird spot. Tonight, it's just one stream, so you don't have to come back later tonight. We are going to be talking with War Party's Justin Murphy, and we have him on the line here. Professor Murf, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm loving the just the intro panel here, the art on this thing. Did you do all that art, or have you got somebody else doing that?
I do all the art and the writing, other than the colors. I have a colorist, James Brown. He works at IDW.
Does he feel good?
Yeah. I've been working with him for this. Just got that. Yeah, he goes by J Brown, not James, but that is his name, James Brown. But yeah.
I'm so jealous of people who can draw and write.
Yeah.
Not so much for the talent of it, but for how much easier it makes it for you guys to run a crowdfunding, because you don't have to outlay the out of pocket to an artist. You're outlaying your time, which
right.
you can expense yourself whatever you want. Let me bring this up here and just show people what we're looking at. This is really some gorgeous stuff, and yet you still had to think you had to go get Michael Golden to do a cover. Come on, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, tell us a little bit about what War Party is, and before we get too far into this, actually, let me back that up. I've done a lot of streams with people who are doing their campaigns, and it's like the first issue or the second issue of something. You've done 5 campaigns already, and this is all 6 issues of a series. So this is not something that's going to take backers a year to catch up on the whole story, or 2 years. They're going to get the whole thing right now, all 6 issues.
Correct.
So kind of what is this story, and how did this come around? Yeah,
I've been working on it a couple years, so that gave me a head start. And it's during the French and Indian War in the 1750s, and the lead character's daughter gets abducted, and she's going to be sold to the French. She's about 8 years old, and so he enlists the help of a shaman named Dione. She gives them these magical pelts, and it matches their spirit animal, and that's what turns them into whatever beast their spirit animal is. And they use those new given powers to basically fight the French and the British. The French and the British actually call a truce to ally against them once they find out what they are. So they have a big sort of adversary to overcome to get his daughter back.
That's very cool. You do have a video up here, which has become it's not so much a staple, but a necessity for promoting crowdfunded comics these days. So now, it used to be you had to learn how to do a comic book to have one. Now you have to learn how to be a video editor as well to do your own promotion.
Yeah, and run a YouTube channel apparently. Yeah, you got to make you got to make content. You have to. You can't just hide behind your art table and draw comics and hope that people discover it. It doesn't. You have to promote yourself, definitely.
Which honestly is 2 steps more than any of the mainstream comic book companies do. I mean, if DC had a decent YouTube channel where they talked about their books, or Marvel had one where they weren't eating
right.
and talking about their comics and promoting stuff all the time, it would be great. And making videos about the comics, or video ads, run them on television. That would really be a shot in the arm to the industry, I think. But what do we know? We're just selling comic books and doing a pretty good job of it. But anyway, I do want to run the video here for our viewers, because this is a pretty cool thing. So I'm going to give that a full screen and run it now.
Everything changed when war reached the Americas. Caught between the French and the British, my family paid the price. Only Only my darling Sarah survived. They took her away. We couldn't save them, but we will save her. 5 men against thousands, how can it be done? We are not merely men. War has brought out the beast in us all. And we will have our vengeance. For we are the War Party.
Okay, already I want two things. I want a Saturday morning cartoon show on HBO. I want action figures. So get on that.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
So that's very cool. You got I lost count, was it 5 or 6? But I think it was 6 different characters.
Yeah, there's the 5 members of the War Party. That's why the variant set has 5 additional covers of issue 1. Each cover features a different member, and Michael Golden does the Eagle character. So with the variant set, they get 11 comic books actually, and a poster.
And again, you know, with you being an animator, that made that one segment in there where he's turning into the wolf really pop out of it from it just being a motion comic sort of thing.
Right. Well,
very cool.
Yeah, it takes some time to do that kind of animation because you have to do it frame by frame. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah, especially for one guy.
Yeah,
you don't have a studio working behind you. One thing that stood out to me out of the cast of characters was that you have the wolf, the bear, the eagle, and gator. You had a jaguar, which isn't really a North American animal. So I was curious how that.
Yeah, there were jaguars actually. Aztec, they called the Aztec jaguar, which was a warrior. So they were running around in Mexico and Central America. So at one point they would have been in North America. They're just not as common now. But you keep in mind, I live in Jacksonville, and we are the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there you go. So there's got to be a gator and there's got to be a jaguar in there, right? I live in North Florida.
Yeah, and I really do want the action figures of these. Have you talked to anybody about doing 3D prints or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to anybody, but I have definitely thought about it. But it's in such the early phases at this point, just trying to get the book launched first. That of course, there'll be opportunities to do things like that in the future if the book is successful. So yeah, I definitely would be open to that.
Now you've got 6 issues here in this set, and that's I'm skipping the featured one first just to talk about this. It's the set of issues 1 through 6. I didn't mean to go that far with it. Have any of these been released anywhere already? I mean, is this a compilation of the 6, or is this the first time anybody's seeing any of the issues?
This is the first time they'll ever be printed. Instead of shipping them all separately, though, I'm going to ship them all together. So I could have done this as 1 volume graphic novel, but I wanted to do it specifically as a mini-series and have 6 different covers. I wanted to do floppies, honestly. So that's why I did it this way. But it'll all ship together, 1 complete story, and it's never been published before.
Yeah, I like.
I'm still working on 5 and 6. So 5 and 6 aren't done yet. I'm on 5 right now, issue 5.
Okay. I like having the ability to read them in floppies. I'm still just old school that way. Even though
I love it.
The graphic novels.
No need for a bookmark, right?
Yes.
You just read an issue, and they say, "Oh, I think I'll read issue 2, a couple nights later, or whatever." You can put it aside.
But I think this is the first time that I've seen a series marketed this way. That was the first time out for all of them. I mean, you've got people who are putting out issue number 3 of a series, and you can add on 1 and 2 to catch up if you didn't know what they were already. But I didn't want to release an unfinished story. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of campaigns, it may be like a 64-pager, but it kind of leaves you hanging. I wanted to release something that was a complete story, beginning to end, that wrapped itself up completely,
but I wanted to do it in floppy form. So that's why the only option was to obviously do a miniseries. The character Diane, the shaman, I'm going to be able to take her through different periods in history. She ages very slowly, kind of like Wolverine. So, you know,
Okay.
100 years to her is like 5 to, you know, so because of that, it's going to give me the opportunity to take her through different periods of history, and where she'll assemble different war parties for different, you know, purposes, depending on what the story demands. So she's sort of the bearer, the carrier of this ancient magic, so to speak, and that's how it's going to work. So I'm looking forward to where I can take her in the story beyond, obviously, the 1750s.
Now, the era that you picked, the French Indian War, it's not the sexiest war that people like to write about. I mean, you know, they'll write about the Revolutionary, the Civil, then jump all the way to World War II, because I guess it's just they think it's more interesting to write about. What drew you to this specific battle to use as the backdrop for your story?
Well, it's the most brutal war of all of them. The more I studied it, the more I realized how bad it was. There were really no rules. I mean, they were scalping kids. You know, it was pretty nasty. It was a wild frontier, right? And you just had the French, the British. You had different tribes allied with different sides, and then you had the colonials caught in the middle of all of it. And so you had all these alliances going on. You had frontier countries, pretty much as far as you could see, other than basically the 13 colonies. As soon as you got west of that, it was every man for himself, and woman and child. And there was no quarter given just because you were a woman. There was no quarter given just because you were a child. They were killing babies out there. So it was on both sides, you know. So it's a brutal, every, you know, sort of survival war, every man for themselves. So I thought, what a better backdrop to put, you know, a werewolf story or a skinwalker type story, because it has its origins in Native American lore and Celtic lore. So it has its origins in European and North American mythology. The you know, the idea of putting on animal skins and going into battle and believing you're transforming into that beast, that comes from Europe and North America. So
Does your story reflect that level of brutality?
In spots, yeah. His whole family gets wiped out at the very beginning. Within the first 3 or 4 pages of the book, his family's being wiped out by a war party that was allied to the French, because they're allied to the British. So, you know, when they go through, they raise the whole settlement, you know, burn it to the ground, and they take his daughter. His daughter escapes, but they find her, they catch her, and they decide to take her and sell her to the French, because that was very common. Sometimes they would spare the children and sell them into slavery, or take them into the tribe. They would do that as well. Yeah, so that's the gist of it. So, you know, it's pretty, I'd say it's PG-13 level material, you know.
Okay. And the characters who become the skinwalkers, are they Native Americans? Are they British settlers?
They're 3 brothers, so 3 of them are British. One is a former British soldier, or sorry, 3 of them are colonials, Americans. One of them's a British soldier, the other's a French soldier, and then of course Diane is an Algonquin, and her tribe is the tribe that gives them the ability to make this transformation. So they're not necessarily allied with the British, her tribe, but they kind of stay out of it. But they kept the secrets of this power. And the lead character and the shaman, they knew each other when he was younger. They had a run-in at one point when he was, I flash back to that, where he actually saved her life. She had been shot on a hunt, and they didn't know what she was, because she was in her transformation form, and she had almost been mortally wounded, and he found her, and he didn't shoot her, and he basically lies to his father and says, I don't know where the beast went, and goes back home, comes back that night to find her, to see if she's still alive, and then they get acquainted, and she takes him to her father and tells her father what he did for her. So it puts him in a position where he knows the tribe when he was younger, and he's basically an ally of the tribe. So then when this happens to his family, he's able to enlist her help.
You just totally answered the next question I was getting ready to answer, which was, you know, if they were staying out of it, what was their motivation for helping these people?
Yeah, it
So
was because he saved her life. Yeah.
it's very much the Androcles and the lion type of analogy here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because she's the source of power in the story. They can't transform without her, and they can't resume their human form, return to their human form without her. So if anything happens to her, they're in trouble. So
Okay.
yeah, so she is the conduit. She's the one who's tapped into the power the most in their tribe, and she has to perform the ritual basically and you have to wear the pelt. If you don't have the pelt, you can't transform.
All right. So this isn't something they can do. They've been given a power that they can now
No.
do it back and forth by choice. She's got to take them out and take them in.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can only transform into the pelt of your spirit animal. So, like, if James is the wolf, he couldn't put on the alligator pelt and turn into a weregator. It would do nothing. So it has to match whatever your connected spirit animal is, and she finds out what that is. When she touches you, she can find out. She can release it and find out what your spirit animal is, and that lets her know, what the proper pelt for you. And I kind of match it to their personality. Like the guy who's the gator is kind of a sleazy kind of like he's the British soldier that was basically going to be executed because he had an affair with one of the officers' wives. So they were going to hang him. And so he ends up in the same jail cell as the brothers, and that's how they meet. So he's kind of the cynical, wisecracking kind of, So I thought, he's a little slimy, he's a little reptilian kind of thing going on there. So Gator would be nice for him. So I tried to match their personalities a little bit.
Well, at least you didn't make him Cajun.
Yeah, the oldest brother is the bear, and he's like a big old gentle giant kind of guy. And he's kind of conflicted because he's a real devoutly religious guy who believes, that by doing this, you're kind of making a pact with the devil. You shouldn't be transforming into some sort of beast. He thinks it's an abomination. So they have to convince him that it's the right thing to do, and he resists at first. He won't put the pelt on. And the irony of it is the grizzly bear is the strongest of all of them. So they really need him. He's kind of like the Incredible Hulk of the team. And grizzly bears being some of the strongest land animals, they realize that he's important to what they're trying to do. So they have to convince him that it's the right thing to do. And, he's not going to burn in hell or lose his soul for transforming into a werebear.
Now, I noticed the human hybrids here, these transformed people, they're bigger than the animals themselves that they're turning into. I mean, that eagle is huge. That wolf is huge. Is it just as true for the bear that he's bigger than the average bear, or is he?
Yeah, they're all bigger. They're roughly probably about 9 or 10 feet tall. They get huge. Yeah, like if there's a panel further down where the werewolf is holding a British soldier by his leg, and you'll see the size compared to a human. So you see how much bigger they get. So they're quite formidable. They heal really fast. They're monster superheroes basically. That's what they are. So I wanted to take it up a notch and make it exciting and so something that's cool and powerful.
Oh yeah, monster superheroes. That's been a favorite trope of mine in comics since I was like 12. Do you remember Weird War Tales?
It sounds familiar. I can't say I've ever read it, but
yeah, they used to have a series in there. It was an anthology book, and you'd had G.I. Robot, who was one of the first robots we ever made, and we put a helmet on him and sent him to war. But they also had this thing called the Creature Commandos, and it was basically the Universal monsters.
Right,
it was
right.
Frankenstein, a vampire, and a guy who could turn into a werewolf, fighting the Germans.
That's cool.
It's one of the first things that popped into my mind when I saw that werewolf fighting a war against soldiers.
Yeah. I know it's been done before in some respects or another. But what I like to do is, if you take it and you put it in a brand new period of history with a new context with different characters, you can make something that people may have seen many times fresh again. Now you'll see the transformation. That is something that I try to do differently. The pelt actually comes alive and consumes the wearer. So you see, it's going into his eye sockets and penetrating his flesh and consuming him, merging with his body. So it's a different type of transformation than, you would typically see,
and
in a werewolf. Say again?
and they're whipping him during this time. It looks like they have him chained up.
Yeah, he was being flogged to see. I don't want to give too much story away, but he had been flogged partly for desertion and for treason, or being a traitor, or at least they thought he was. So they were beating him to death. And Diane shows up and basically tricks them into letting her put the pelt on him, thinking that she's just offering some sort of tribute before they kill him, before they hang him. You'll see his back there in the last panel. He's been flogged and his back is bloodied. So, but once the beast consumes him, he turns into the wolf. All of his wounds heal. He gets strong, and then it's look out, watch out, British.
Yeah,
you're in trouble.
The scene, the question that was coming to my mind watching the scene was, you had mentioned how she has to do the ritual for them to transform. So I'm guessing from looking at this that the ritual does not involve touch or proximity.
It does. That page is not here, but before this, what she has to do, she has to put the pelt on you. She paints what looks like a pentagram, actually, but it's truthfully a Native American symbol of transformation. It's a 5-pointed star in a circle with little sun bursts around it. So she paints that in the animal's blood. Then you drink the animal's blood, which she offers him. And then she would traditionally do basically kind of like a war dance. Well, in this situation, because he's chained up and there isn't a lot of time, she just leans in and gives him a kiss on the mouth and transfers some of her power into his body after putting the pelt on him, and gives him the ability to transform. So she, like I said, she's the point of contact. She is the power source, and which it makes her an interesting character, because she's a very nurturing. She's strong, but she's a very nurturing character. And I really enjoy writing her.
That's a very complex method of transformation too. I mean, it's much better than saying Shazam or a full moon. But at the same time, because it's so complex, did you ever have to rework your script, get written into a corner somewhere? Because if you've got to drink the blood of the animal you're going to transform into, you don't have refrigeration.
Right.
Carry it around.
Right. Well, she has to. She has to store the blood, basically. She has to have the blood on hand. So yeah, it's kind of a potion that she makes. And if I would have to. She would have to travel with the war party with the vials of blood on her person. Anytime they wanted to transform, they would have to drink it. So I tried to make it more complicated so that it's not just like you said. The moon's out and here I go, or I get angry and here I go. We've seen that many times. I think it needed to be a process that was very specific, that only she knew the secrets of. You know what I mean? Right. That way it presents her as, like I said, the source of power. She's the only one that's capable of carrying this out. And they can't stay in that form too long. If they stay in that form too long, the longer they stay in that form, the more they start to basically become the animal. He'll eventually become a wolf, a full-fledged wolf, if he doesn't resume his human form. So there's a clock ticking when they're in this form, and they got to get down to business, and get done whatever they need to get done and come back. So there's several caveats to all of this that I think make it a little more interesting.
And they need her to reverse the transformation as well as go into it. So don't get separated from the war party is what
exactly. She's the captain of the ship on this stuff. Yeah. It's her war party, which is why we great with other storylines and other time periods. She is the consistency. But you'll see in the top panel, he's transforming from his human form all the way up to the wolf. So you see how much bigger the wolf is.
Oh my God. Yes. That's huge.
Yeah. It's probably a good 10 feet. If he was standing up, he's bent down on the bottom frame, but
yeah, that's at least twice. That's at least twice the height.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, of course, these beans mean nothing.
there's the big nemesis. That is the lieutenant colonel. He's the one that the Gator guy had the affair with his wife. But he's a real kind of wretched kind of character, and he's the one that basically organizes the fight against the war party. When he sees this transformation, he knows what this guy is. And he's the one that is able to get the French to call a temporary truce, the other French army, so that they can go after the war party.
Okay. Now, this is not a Jaguar. This is a new character I'm seeing here. This is a deer.
Yes, Diane is actually Algonquin for deer, and that is her spirit animal. So she's very fast, and has like extreme agility. And that's the flashback there where he and the father are tracking it, and it's wounded, or she's wounded, and he sees her, and he lets her go. So that's the moment where it's kind of like the Bilbo letting Frodo or letting Gollum live, and how that ended up paying off in the end. Yeah,
that's very cool. Now, I like how you can look at this and you can tell right away, first that it's deer, and second that it's human. What is your approach to giving a creature this level of anthropomorphic personification? Those are big words. I love using them.
Well, I always favor the humanoid first, so they'll always be bipeds. They'll never be on all fours, even though she can run on all fours. But I want so I always base it on the human form first of all, then just say, okay, what aspects of the body can we change? I mean, we've all seen the lizard in Spider-Man. We've all we've seen anthropomorphic monsters plenty of times. It's nothing new. It's just a matter of what features you decide to to emphasize, basically. And of course, with the deer, it's the eyes, the nose, and I gave her antlers, which this was tricky because usually only male deer have antlers. But I was like, if she doesn't have antlers, you're not going to know she's a deer, right? So I did some research, and it turns out in certain cases, yes, some female deer do grow antlers. So I was able to get around that one in the design, because it's not unheard of for a female deer to grow antlers. Okay,
so if she's the deer, that's her spirit animal. Then she's not the jaguar of the group.
Correct. The jaguar is a Frenchman. He was a French soldier who was basically playing both sides of the fence. He was working for the French. He was working for the British. He was going back and forth, pretty much a mercenary. But he's kind of a funny fellow, and he doesn't speak hardly any English. So it's kind of it makes for good comedic moments between him and the British soldier and the other brothers, because half the time they can't even understand what he's saying, and he gets frustrated. And so, but he's a friend of the British soldier. The British soldier can kind of understand him. He can speak a little bit of French. So he's kind of the interpreter, the go-to guy, so they can communicate with the French character.
Gotcha. Yeah, for some reason, when I was seeing the giant jaguar form, it was coming across to me as female. Maybe I was thinking Chitara.
Well, he is a Frenchman, he's very, he's very proper, or I'm sounding like a British man right now. He's very proper, it's fun. It's fun to create interesting characters, to put characters together that kind of are misfits or at odds a little bit. I wanted to make it interesting. You've got the brother banter between the three brothers, as brothers do, fighting and things like that, arguing. And yeah, it's coming along really nicely. The story has developed really to my liking. So
yeah, so everybody is basically. You've mentioned how if they stay too long, that it could become a permanent. They'd be permanently that animal. I'm guessing they'd be permanently the giant form of that animal.
No, they will start to actually transform into that animal.
Into the regular size version of it.
Yes. So they're basically their proportions, their body, it's going to start to morph into that animal gradually. And the story, there's going to be moments where you're going to see they're getting smaller by the end. Like they're starting to shrink down. And I don't want to go too far and give too much away, but I try to create a little bit of a mythology and a kind of a mystical science behind it, so that it's not just turn a werewolf, turn back, and just I didn't want it to be something they could take for granted or something they could do easily. There has to be a cost every time they do it, and a price to pay, and consequences. I think that makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and this might answering this might give too much away, but I was curious if there's much of a mental struggle between the animal and the man as to, the animal wanting to stay in place and the man not wanting to give up or come back.
Well, yeah, what happens is, obviously the more they become the animal, the less they start to lose their humanity mentally and emotionally. So the memories would start to go, your cognitive reasoning, all that would start to go, and you would become that animal. Doesn't mean you wouldn't remember people necessarily. And like I said, I can't give too much away at the end anyways. If I say any more, it's gonna give too much away. But that's where I was going with it.
Sure. And I guess having that spirit animal, they don't retain anything of the animal characteristics when they're back to being a human form. I mean, eagle doesn't like have 20/50 vision or something.
No, and the truth is, whatever your infirmities are or your deformities, they return. So in other words, if, my wolf character actually has all 4 of his right fingers hacked off with a tomahawk. And when he turns into the wolf, his fingers regenerate, they grow out. But as soon as he goes back to his human form, he resumes his infirmity. So it actually tempts you to want to be the beast more, because say, if you lose your legs and then you become the beast, your legs grow back, you can walk again, you can run again, you're fully functional. And yet, when you go back to your human form, you're going to go back to whatever limitations you had before. So it's another sort of temptation to make you want to be in beast form, especially if you have injuries or missing limbs or things like that. Which, once again, not going to go too far with all that, but there's some story points to that as well. So.
I am looking at this 17 by 22 poster, Justin, and this is just fan-freaking-tastic.
Thanks.
And it's black and white, and it's a stark black and white. And I'm going to do the same thing to you that I do to everybody else that comes on my stream. I'm going to throw an idea at you that you're not doing, and then you'll say that, oh, that's a great idea, I should do that next time, and then I'll never hear about it again. What I do, I come up with big brain ideas that I'm not responsible for.
All right.
But hear me out on this.
Sure.
This poster, all of the black is black felt and a set of markers. Because I had a Star Wars poster.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, those black posters, and you just color them. I want to color that thing with markers.
I remember those posters because I was 3 or 4 when Star Wars came out, 77, 78. And I remember getting one of those. It was before the designs were even done. Like Luke and Han didn't even look like themselves, and they were. It was before they had, I think before they even cast the movie, maybe, when they made these things. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. That's the only traditional media for sale. The entire book is done digitally. That's the only piece I did traditionally. That's it.
I don't know how you would, because I haven't seen anybody do. Well, I guess Walmart still sells those things. You can buy the parrots and other things that you color on black felt. But I don't know who you'd go to say, hey, here's my artwork in black and white. Make it one of these black felt coloring things.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Totally. But yeah, I wanted to do that simply because I wanted to at least have something original to sell. And if I don't sell it at this campaign, I'm sure I'll be able to move it in future campaigns when the book is more well known. Because $12.50 is a hefty chunk of change, but that is a big piece of art. You're talking 2 full pages taped together.
Yeah. Now, this is the one of a kind.
Yeah, it's the only one. That's it. Yeah.
This isn't a print. This is the original art.
It is the original art.
Oh, okay.
The only original art, as far as I'm concerned, for the whole series, because everything else is digital. Yeah. Everything else is inked and painted digitally.
So now for add-on perks we've got down here, and we haven't even. Before we look at the add-on perks, let's actually look at the packages. So the featured set is the complete variant set, and what you get here is you get issues 1 through 6, which is what you're getting pretty much in all the packages. That's what you're selling here is a 6-issue series, and then 5 more covers of issue 1 done by Michael Golden.
One of them's done by Michael Golden.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, he does the eagle cover. He does the eagle character. I do all the others. So 4 by me, 1 by Golden.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then the autographed poster, and the poster is which have we seen that image?
It's the one at the top. It's the original. That image right there.
This right here. Okay, so the one that the original art is being done for.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's a hell of a deal for $50 there. You get all 6 issues and then 5 more. That's 11 books and a poster that's signed.
Mm-hmm. They're $4. $4 a pop. The books. What you pay in the store for a comic book?
Now that's what you never get on Indiegogo is what you pay in a store for a book.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of questions about that. I had to kind of basically give a response because people were like, "Why is this so cheap? Why is this so cheap?" And I said, "It's not cheap. I'm charging what a book would be in the store." I said, "Well, a lot of books on crowdfunding are more expensive because they're trying to launch a project. It's not just about the cost of the book." I said, "That's fine. I wanted to charge what you pay for in the store for a comic book."
And again, you have the advantage of not being in the position of a writer who's not an artist, who's not in the tank for $4,000 already.
Right. I'm only paying my colorist. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent deal.
Which is still not cheap, by the way. But you get what you pay for, and he's a A-list color. I mean, he's just as good as any colorist I've ever seen. So and I've been working with him since 2008 because we did a 200-page graphic novel called Claiborne back in 2008. It's a Civil War novel, graphic novel, and it's on Amazon now. So he's worked with me for years. So we know, we can read each other's minds artistically, if you know what I mean, when you find a collaborator like that.
Now, are these issues in the variant in the feature set? Are they all autographed, or are they just?
Yes. Yeah. It says it's in the description. Signed by author. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So they're all signed regardless of whether they get the variant set or the regular complete set.
Because I was going to say they were autographed in this one, and then I didn't want to say that was a subtraction of the other.
No, they are. You're just getting the variant covers and the poster with the $50 package, whereas with the 25 you're just getting the books.
So $25 for 6 books. You can't get that at your local comic shop.
Well, I mean, I know some books are $5, but a lot of floppies are still $4. You can find them. I've always heard so many complaints about how expensive comics are getting, and I agree. I mean, $5 is a lot of money to pay for a 22-page story.
Especially when you can buy a paperback novel for pretty much the same price and spend a lot more time in it.
Yeah.
So, and then for $100, you got the complete set plus an original sketch. Is this you have six of these have been claimed already. Is this I'm going to get what I get, or I say, Can you draw me this?
It has to be one of the characters from my story. So it's not like it's not a commission. It's not like, oh, I want Wolverine or something. It's got to be one of the War Party members or the Shaman or Diani, and they decide what they want, and I draw it. Now, Preston Acevedo is doing an original painting of her, and it'll be ready next week. So it will be added to this campaign, and I'm going to do limited edition prints. Not a lot, like 25 of them, of his painting, and I'm also going to sell the original. And he's also going to do 5 sketch cards for me, only one of each member. So whoever gets the wolf claims the wolf, whoever claims the eagle, and so on. Little sketch cards. So that'll be exciting to have him added to this campaign the last 2 weeks.
I was going to say there's not a whole lot of time left, but are you in your first 30 days, or are you going to extend it 30?
This is my second 30 days. This is how long it's taken me to raise close to $8,000.
What the hell is wrong with people?
It's hard to get noticed. I mean, there's a lot of campaigns out there right now. There's a lot of buzz and talk about it, but this is my first. I'm even though I'm not new to comics, I'm new to Comicsgate, right? So I think there's just a trust factor. People want to make sure that you're going to deliver, and you can put out the best quality product you want, but you got to convince people that you're going to do this and it's going to happen and they're going to get their books. And, I think that's part of it. It could be. I don't know. I think I've done pretty well considering the price point. I mean, I'm not selling hats. I'm not selling shirts. I don't have a lot of perks that I'm offering. It's just cold hard sales of books.
Yeah.
So
even it's simple. I mean, stickers are cheap, but
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have $250 tiers and $500 tiers and $150 tiers. You can build up a lot of money really fast with those kind of tiers. But when most of your pledges are $25, you've got to get a lot of backers, especially to hit $10,000. So I think it's done well. I think it could have done better if I had gotten more publicity. But I've been on as many live streams as possible, pushing it. So it's getting down to the wire. I've got 2 weeks left, and I still need to raise just over $2,000. So it's definitely going to have to pick up the pace a little bit, and it probably will.
Yeah, they tend to pick up in the last week again. If they look like they're going to fund, or especially if they have funded, that's when everybody's like, yes, I don't have to worry about getting this refunded back to me.
Well, and the good news is I've raised enough that, I was always intending on releasing this book regardless. That's why I chose a flexible goal. The importance of getting to 10 is not that the book won't happen. If I don't, it will. But the difference is you want to go in demand, obviously, because if you don't hit your goal, you can't go in demand, and then you can't keep selling the book, right? Because word's going to get out 6 months from now. I could still be selling, getting pledges and in demand. So it's very important to hit your goal so you can do that.
That way you can turn it into an online store, which is what people like to do with it. And then here, of course, is the original art that we saw way down the line, 17 by 22, $1,250. And yes, you do get, you still get all 6 issues, and then all 5 of the variant covers on top of that, and the original poster art, and the autographed poster of it. So you're basically getting everything from the first kit and this original pen and ink part.
Thank you, Brian, for backing. Hail, Brian.
I love Brian. Brian comes on here and always backs. And then he always tells me, I can't do this anymore. I've got to pay for something expensive. And I'm like, that's cool.
Well, I'm glad he likes what he sees and hears. So that's great. Yeah. Appreciate it.
So there we are. We're up. So, okay, Brian. I will take the shake and bake moment.
It's shake and bake. It's shake and bake, and I help.
Wow, that's going back.
Yeah, well, I throw that up anytime somebody backs a project that's on my stream. I'm like, yes, I accomplished something. I brought a buyer to a seller. I helped. So I can run one a lot more than
Jane, you ignorant slut.
I never find the reason to put that one in there yet. Someday I'll interview a Jane.
Yeah, that's not a common name these days, is it? Not
no,
too many Janes around. Yeah.
Plus, I'd have to be in a fight with her, I guess. But yeah.
So yeah, the motion comic, which was the thing at the bottom. Me being an animator, obviously, the motion comic was something I wanted to do as well. Where it's limited camera movement, things like that, music, sound effects, actors' voices, but it's the entire 6-issue series, the whole story in motion comic form. You'll get a movie file basically sent to you when it's done. And it's at the bottom. It's an add-on.
So
it's a $10. Yeah, it's a $10 add-on perk. So when they buy, when they pledge to any other tier, so I think 25 or higher, which you get that add-on perk if you want it for $10. So it's a good deal. $10. You're getting a movie, basically a limited, storyboard kind of story reel type movie. I mean, obviously not a fully animated movie, but you're kind of getting a movie. It's got the vibe of a movie, at least, the music and the actors, and it's $10,
All 6 issues.
Yeah.
So what's the running time?
It's not finished yet, so I don't know. I've only done the first 2 issues so far. So, they're averaging about 10 minutes an issue. So it'll probably be about an hour long.
It's an hour? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can extrapolate that out. Plus, you'll probably want to, you'll have an opening theme and a closing credits. There's a couple of extra minutes.
Right. Now, that will probably take a little longer, so I doubt that will ship with the books or be emailed when the books ship. It'll probably be a little later than that, simply because, that's not the priority. Obviously, it's getting the books done and out. That's the priority. And then, of course, the motion comic will have to be finished up once the books are out. So I've been working on and off on it. I'm very cinematic in the way I think, and the thing I don't like about comics is the lack of music, honestly. I love comics as a medium. I love the affordability of it. I love the art form. I love holding a book in my hand, all that good stuff. But I don't love the fact there's no music. Because to me, music, when I write stuff, I hear scores in my head. And when I'm drawing it, I'm like, no matter how well I present this, there's an emotional core that cannot be conveyed because there's no music. Music is the emotion when you watch a movie.
Oh yeah,
it's so much. So what I like about doing a motion comic is then you can take that comic, put a score underneath it with actors and sound effects, and then you're able to sort of add another dimension of emotion to it that can't honestly exist on the page. It just can't, because there's no audible. I've never cried reading a comic book. I'm sorry, I never have, or I've never gotten emotional reading a comic book. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's never happened. Whereas Huh?
I'll give you one. It'll do
Okay.
it.
What's
Amelia Rules by Jimmy Gownley.
Amelia Rules? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll read it. I'll check it
Series
out because
of-
I'm
the series
convinced
of-
there's
no.
got to be a way to do it, but I've never been able. I tried with Claiborne. It gets. I mean, it's pretty tragic at the end of that story because it's a true story. But like I said, music is so much of what makes emotion well up in you when you're watching a movie.
Oh yeah,
And
the
when you
best
don't
ones are
have it, say again.
the best scores are the ones where you don't even really notice that they're there because you're into the story of it.
Right.
But it's still welling you up. But yeah, Gownley. If you're going into it looking for tragedy, it'll sneak up on you because it's about kids and it's like Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes, and it's 95% antics and what they're doing and playing superheroes and ninjas in the street. But then he's got this one scene where this girl is talking about her father who just flew off to Iraq and she's going to be gone for 2 years, and she breaks down how long 2 years is. Now I don't even talk about that sentence because the way he uses comics to reveal that, and again, it gets down to I don't know, we're talking about another writer now, but I'm sorry. He knows how to use comics as the medium of comics rather than just here's a bunch of pictures in sequence to tell the story I'm trying to tell. He takes advantage of what comics can do that none of the other mediums can do.
Yeah, well, you can definitely adjust the pacing. That's what I like about it. I mean, you can put several panels in succession and show a very limited action and slow the reader down, or you can show snippets of things happening in those same amount of panels, and it moves faster, right? So it is interesting how you can speed it up and slow it down depending on how you arrange the panels, how many drawings are on the page, and how much story is being covered on that page. Which is why things like full page spreads are so important because you're using so much real estate to take up 2 pages for one drawing. It better say something, right? Yeah. I mean, that's expensive to use.
And you know what? The reader will spend so much time looking at those 2 pages and everything that's going on in it. And the magic of comics is that fight scene right there takes as long as it takes for the reader to look at it. Mm-hmm. So that fight can last for 10 minutes or it can be over in a second. Mm-hmm. And it's the same fight. Now, you said something a little bit back here that I didn't jump on right away here. I'm very careful when I have guests on here that I say you're a crowdfunding comic book person. You said this is your first Comics Gate project. So I back Comics Gate, I back DC, I back Marvel, I back everybody. So I've got I'm only anti people.
Right.
People who try to shut down people, I'm like, oh, go away, will you please? But what made you specifically align in that direction?
Here's the thing. I've been following. What got me back into comics, honestly, is I started following Comic Artist Pro Secrets. I started watching EVS's streams and his shows, specifically his portfolio reviews, which I used to love. He doesn't do them anymore. But I loved it when he used to review people's work when they'd submit it.
Yeah, the really ones.
Yeah, and then I sort of got introduced to your boy Zach and what some of the things he was saying, and it got me interested in comics again for several reasons. Because I had given up on comics as far back as 2012. I said the industry's going down. I can see the writing on the wall. There's no future in this. There's no money in this. I got to do other things. I'm going into animation. And seeing what was happening with crowdfunding, the fact that there was an audience all sort of congregating around these projects, and you didn't have to deal with distributors and Diamond anymore. You didn't have to take 60% discounts on your books, all this stuff. And then, of course, hearing about all the political stuff that was permeating Marvel and DC. And I just said, you know what? I'm agreeing with what these guys are saying. I agree with it. So rather than say, well, I don't want to ally myself with something controversial, so I better just keep my mouth shut. No, if you agree with somebody and you agree with their grievances and what the problems are and what they want to do, that they want to entertain people and treat customers with respect, I can get on board that. So I was like, hey, I guess I'm Comicsgate. It's no more complicated than that, and I know it's become kind of like a password, I guess, in some ways, or like a, you know what I mean, like a buzzword. Like, well, you gotta whisper the secret password to get in. You know, you gotta say, "I'm Comics Gate." I didn't look at it that way. I just looked at it as they're the best. They seem to be the best people out there as far as comic readers. I mean, if it wasn't for Comicsgate streamers and readers, I would not be pushing $8,000 right now. I wouldn't. I don't. I think because comics have become such a niche medium, such a tiny, tiny, tiny form of entertainment in the grand scheme of things in terms of readership, that if you don't get into a community with your project, if you just go out into the wilderness by yourself, I don't care how good your book is, and go buy this, I don't think you can succeed. I think you have to have support, and that means fan support. It also means the support of other professionals. And I was not about to venture back into this alone and say, well, I'm just going to do this and I'm not going to, try to be friends with anybody. I'm just going to let my work speak for itself. It can't, because no one will see it.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. You can throw it up on Indiegogo all day long, but if you're not out pushing it and basically winning people over to your cause of your book, you're not going anywhere. So to me, it made sense. I said, this is the future. Retail, and I know there's arguments. I don't want to start an argument on retail, but retail is going away. We know this. I mean, bookstores are hanging on by a thread, not just comic stores. People are buying stuff on Amazon. Customers want direct access. They want to send you their money and they want it in the mailbox. That's it. They don't want to get in their car and go to the store. And I'm fine with that. I think it's great. I like that there's customers in the chat, and there's fans in the chat, and there's people recognizing who you are and your work, and there's access. The problem with the industry is I feel like professionals, specifically the ones that are high up, they don't want access to their fans. They want to be sheltered. They want to feel like, you're out here, leave me alone, let me do my thing. And that model won't work anymore. You have to give fans direct access to you, the artist, if you want them to buy your work, I think. And I think that's where it's going. And Comicsgate figured that out very quickly and jumped on it immediately. And I think the industry is starting to go, they may have had a point. We might have messed up here with the way we've been going about things. At least I hope so. Maybe they've learned nothing. I don't know. Yeah. So that's really why I ally myself with it, and I have no problem with it. I know there was controversy in the past, some ugly things happened, some things were said, and this and that, and it's been branded, it's been branded a hate group and all this ridiculous nonsense. I have not encountered any hate. All I've encountered is wonderful people, supportive people, people that are excited about comics, and people that welcome you with open arms when you come in with a project, and they want you to succeed. How could I be against that?
Exactly. And I might be misreading the situation, but I think the industry insiders, the industry professionals, whenever they have to take a stand against Comicsgate for whatever reason it is, I smell fear. It's my reaction to that. I think they're afraid of the success that Comicsgate has shown, because it shows that they may actually have to work real soon.
Yeah. Well, and it also, they're afraid they're going to have something to lose. I mean, keep in mind, I never worked for Marvel or DC. I've always been an independent publisher. I've got nothing to lose. I've never been on the inside. So you can't be kicked out if you've never been in, right? So I think a lot of, in their situation, they've been in, they're in, and they're afraid they're going to get out. They're going to get kicked out. So, they're in a precarious spot because they've got to keep their employers happy, their publishers happy. They also got to keep their Twitter fans happy. And yet at the same time, they may want to work with somebody like Ethan or John Malin, but they realize there's going to be consequences if they do that. Look at the whole Jay Lee debacle. I mean, that was ridiculous. So the point is, I don't care. Like, I don't care what people think. I don't care if they get offended. I don't care if they don't like me because I ally myself with other Comicsgaters. I got nothing to lose. I'm out here doing my thing, So it's a feeling of freedom, honestly, that they don't have, that the professionals in the business, and I've been publishing since '92. So I'm just as qualified as any professional as far as I'm concerned, because that's going back. My first comic came out and was distributed by Diamond the same month Image launched their books. So that's how far back I go. So, just because I've never worked for Marvel or DC, who cares, right? I'm still free. I'm a free agent. I've always been a free agent. And I love the freedom that Comicsgate provides, that there's nobody telling you, you can't write this, you can't say that, you can't draw, sexy women, you can't have masculine heroes, you can't, it's like all these rules where it's like, what are we doing? Are we making art, or are we making, social propaganda? Like, what is this? What's going on? So I don't have to worry about that. Do what I want. People don't like it, they don't like it. If they do, they do. Right?
That's what it should be. You wear what you dig, and if people don't like it, they can wear what they dig somewhere else.
Correct. Agreed.
You've also done some work for television here. I'm just kind of getting the thread here. So you've done artwork for The Unexplained and In Search of Monsters. Now, how did that artwork come to pass? I mean, where was that used? Was like in passing? Hey, I drew that thing that they just shot.
No, I did a bunch of digital paintings of some different cryptids, probably about 100 of them. Everything from like the Chupacabra to Bigfoot, and just went through the whole catalog of cryptids. I was actually working on a game at the time that I never really launched. And so I just threw them up on DeviantArt and kind of forgot about them. And, your art's out there floating around, and suddenly a producer calls me and says, we want to use your Chupacabra for one of our episodes. I said, sure. I said, I have 100 other cryptids I've painted. Do you want me to just make a folder for you, and you just go through and pick out the ones you want? And they said, that sounds like a good idea. So I put them all in a folder, and they went and looked at them, and I was able to license probably about a third of them to the show. And they use them in their programs and their programming. So you never know who's going to find your artwork. That's why it's important to have it out there at all times, because this was a full year after I painted these things.
Oh, well, you were lucky that they contacted you, because a lot of times people find your artwork and then they just steal it and put it on their website.
Well, this is Prometheus Entertainment. They produce Ancient Aliens, so they're a legit production company. They're going to do things the right way. They're not going to broadcast an image that they took off the internet and get sued. Like, they would not allow. So they were really easy to deal with, and it was a good little gig, good little paycheck. So
I love those shows. All of those shows. Any cryptid shows are out there. In fact, we just had a interview last couple of weeks ago with a guy doing a documentary on Bigfoot and Sasquatches in Asia. So, and then last night I had an email from an angel, Justin, that was 14 pages long in Word when I cut it and pasted it. I'm like, this was too good not to live stream. So that was last night's late night live stream. I had to read this email from an angel.
Wow.
Telling me everything that's going on in the world right now that I'm going to find out for real in a couple of days. It was
was there one line missing where it said investor under angel? Because those are the angels I'm looking for.
Yeah, we need more of those. Yeah, we need somebody. We need a Warren Buffett like comic fan whose sole purpose in life is to just watch Indiegogo and look for campaigns that are on their last day and say, okay, he's missing $135. Here you go. He's missing $200. Here you go. Just get them all funded.
Of course. Okay,
perfect. All right. Well, we have hit the hour mark, which is always my goal, and we didn't have to pad a whole bunch because we had some, I think, some good conversation here. Want to thank everybody in the chat for participating. And if you're watching this on replay, the link to War Party is right below there. It's the very first line in the description. So we encourage you to click on that sometime before the thing is done and get this thing pushed over the $10,000 mark with 78%. That's only 22% left to go. This is this is an easy decision here.
We'll do it.
Or per issue book, 6 issues. How can you even the $50 set is well within what you would normally spend on a standard Indiegogo project, and you're getting 11 books and 11 signed books and a signed poster for that 50. So this one's a no-brainer in my book. Justin, I appreciate you being on here with us tonight. And I didn't get a chance to ask where your shaman is going to go next in history, since you were very careful to tell us that she ages and we're going to see her again. I'm guessing you have more stories lined up to tell.
Yeah, the end of issue 6, you actually see where the next story is going to go, and I'll probably just do follow-ups in graphic novel form that are shorter, like 64 to 100 pages max. Just this being the first, I wanted to really tell an epic tale, and then any of the offshoots can be one-shots. So yeah, the end of issue 6, they'll see where she ends up. It's it's perfect. Another perfect scenario for werewolves, or for actually New York City. I'll give you a hint. New York City. So there'll probably be some were rats, maybe even a were pigeon. You gotta have pigeons, right, in New York?
That's what I was going to say. Your spirit animal is a kitten.
Yeah. Hey, we could draw a cool looking kitten, a mean kitten, a were kitten.
There you go.
You can make anything look mean, even a duck. I mean, you can take a duck, a pigeon. You can make anything look tough and cool.
There's your challenge. Find the most innocuous animal and turn it deadly.
A were Shih Tzu.
Yeah. A were Shih Tzu. Yeah, we had a guy on here, Steve Uranus, was on here a couple of weeks ago, and his Kickstarter just finished up, called the Slowpokes, and he basically genetically modified sloths so that they were fast and deadly. So there's these super fast killer sloths running around killing people.
They've got those claws, man. Those things can do some damage.
Yeah, it's not coming at you like this.
Right.
All right. Thanks again.
Well, thanks, RJ. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Had fun.
And come back with the next